Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melissa Caprio.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. It's Wednesday. How are you guys doing? I hope that everybody's doing well. I can't believe we are already in September. Can you believe that the year is almost up already? It has been so fast, and I swear, I think time is moving faster. And I listen to a lot of psychics and readers on YouTube, and a few of them have said that we've definitely sped up and we're like time jumping. So it certainly feels like it. Today I have Angela Clement on, and she's a certified grief coach and an intuitive healer, and she's going to join me here in just a few minutes. So I had a couple replays going in August because I was working on my second book, doing edits, and they have companion oracle cards along with the book, as they're going to have the oracle cards, and they're my photographs. So I've been going through the ones I already had. I had enough, but of course, when you don't look at something for a while and you go back to it, then I'm like, no, I'm not crazy about this image. So I've been rephotographing and doing all that fun stuff. So I've caught up on a lot of stuff, which is something that I really needed to do. And for my regulars who listen to me all the time, thanks so much. I know you know what I do, and you hear me, and you know the kind of guests that I have. But if you're listening to my show for the first time, I want to say welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm a photographer. I'm an author. I have a book called Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams. And I photographed all the manifesting postcards, which are kind of like vision boards for the book. And I shared everybody's stories when their manifestations showed up in the reality. And now I'm working on my second book, which is a lot about affirmations and using oracle cards and getting messages. And I'm super, super excited about it. And just so you know, if you are a newbie listening to me, you can always listen to any show at any time after, because we do the shows live. And you can always go back and you'll see who I've had as other guests, and you can listen to any show anytime on Om Times Radio in the archives or on Postcards to the Universe. .com. I have a podcast section where you can listen to all the shows. And of course, on both, there's descriptions, because most of the time you will notice that I like to have guests. I, talk to myself all the time. So it's more fun for me to have other people on my show with me so that I can talk to them. From the book, I was doing live readings, and I only have a couple left. I haven't been consistent on releasing them, but I am releasing them. I finished recording them. I'll probably be releasing another one tomorrow. I'm almost done, so I've read the whole book. So if you want to check that out, it's on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, and then of course I upload it on YouTube. So that's just a little bit about me. Now I want to talk to my guest, so let me read to you her bio. Angela Clement, she is a certified grief coach and intuitive healer. She offers one-on-one support to those who are ready to release the heavy emotions that come with grief and start to navigate and fully understand the grieving process. Mourning your loss is natural, normal, and essential for healing. Grief is individual. Angela can help you understand how to move through the natural grieving process in a way that is uniquely designed for you and your needs. Grief is a pathway to transformation. In 2020, she says, her husband of 35 years died of cancer. In the aftermath, I came to understand grief as a spiritual experience that was perfectly, profoundly, and proficiently designed for me to awaken to who I truly am. Walking the sacred path of bereavement can be dark and lonely. The Awaken Your Soul's Journeys community offers a light in the darkness and provides comfort for those who are heartbroken from loss. Let us support you in unlocking the transformative power of grief and help you find joy in life again. Her book, Awakening Through Grief, A Journey of Hope for Healing After Loss, provides readers with a roadmap to building a life after the loss of a loved one through story exercises and calls to actions. And it's coming out in October of this year, 2024. So you can find out more about her if you go to healingenergy.world. Hi, Angela. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you because, grief has definitely been something that I've had to personally deal with in the last 2 years. My sister passed away in June of 2022. And so, not only me dealing with it, but my parents, I'm lucky my parents are still with us. So, it's been very difficult for them, especially for my mom. My sister was special needs, and we had a group home, and we were taking care of her in the group home along with 9 other women who were special needs. So it's been challenging dealing with grief. So can you share a little bit with us about what made you decide to want to tackle grief? I mean, I know you lost your husband, and was that the big catalyst?
Yes, that was it. I had no thoughts about grief at all, really, before that. I mean, we all go through it, but it seems like society really, unless you have to deal with it, we don't really talk about it that much. We kind of leave each other to figure it out. And so when he passed away, I just found that I was in a place where I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what to do. And the emotion that comes with it is so overwhelming. And I knew at some point I was going to need some help. So it's been a journey. But yes, through it, I feel like I'm on a mission to help people understand that there is a way through the grieving. And there can be joy and fulfillment in life after a loss. So that's what I do.
Yeah, that's did you happen to notice that there was some people who you thought would be there for you but weren't, or friends disappeared, or family or something because they just didn't know how to handle your grief?
Yeah, that happens with everybody, I think. And it surprises you, some of the people that you didn't realize would be so supportive are very supportive.
Right.
And then others who expect, they just can't be. They don't know how. And it's tough. It can be really, really hard.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting, and I think it hit my mom more than me or my other sister, I think, because I don't know. It's like almost like I felt like, and this is what I told her, I feel like that they were so, because as a parent, from what I understand, the worst thing that could possibly happen to you is you lose your child, right? Because that's not the way the order of things are supposed to happen, right? We know this. We grandparents, parents, even spouses or whatever, but not your children. So it almost felt like people couldn't handle it because they couldn't think, God forbid, like almost like you could catch it. You know what I mean? Like it reminds you what could happen to you, kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's so uncomfortable, when I think about, friends that lost their spouses or people that lost kids, I didn't know what to do. I had no idea. I mean, we took some food over, and we would maybe sit with them. And then it just seemed like that was all we could do. And now I'm realizing, oh man, there was a whole lot more I could have been doing, but we just don't know. And what we don't know, we can't help it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way for me to ask you this question. So, what should we do? I mean, obviously, we can't take away the person's grief, nor should we try, right? But we can sit with people, we could be with people. So, what are the things that we should be doing to help somebody who's going through grief?
Yeah, well, and that's just it. It is that simple. You mentioned sitting with people and being there. That really is the whole thing. It's like there's nothing you can say necessarily that's going to make everything better. In fact, that just really causes more pain sometimes, trying to give, like they're in a better place, or, they're no longer suffering, those kinds of things that we say to people.
Yeah.
They're all well-meaning, but they don't help.
Right.
And so it's like, in some ways, less is more. It's sitting with that person. It's letting them know that you're there, that you recognize and acknowledge the fact that they're in grief and that there are a lot of emotions coming up. And what I found really helpful was when people would just, even send me a text and say, "Hey, I'm thinking of you today." Or, remembering those anniversary dates, like the birthdays, the anniversaries, that meant a lot to me, because those days can be really hard. And to have people just acknowledge that they know you're going through a difficult time, feels very supportive.
Yeah, I agree, because I know that from our own experiences, just that, hey, thinking of you, and, yeah, and what you said is so true. Like, and this was so relevant in our situation. So my sister, who was special needs, people would say, "Oh, well, she's in a better place," and all this stuff, and it would infuriate me, and it would infuriate my mom, because there was almost this idea that because she was special needs, like she was suffering in her life. And then at her funeral and her service, I spoke and my other sister spoke. My parents couldn't speak. And I was like, "No, you have it wrong," because my sister, who died, was the happiest person ever in this life, and loved everybody unconditionally. Like, she was so loved and so loving that she had a better life than almost anybody else I could say that I know personally. Right? So it's like, but they think because she was special needs, they looked at her as disabled, you see, instead of
Right.
looking at her as this loving spirit who came through in this body for whatever experience she needed, and we all needed. And now she's moving on in her journey, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just amazing that people, that they don't teach us how, because like you said, we're all going to go through grief. I mean, how many people just grieve terribly when they lose a pet? And we just wash that
Right.
away. Oh, it was just a dog, or oh, it was just a cat. Are you crazy? Like, that was a
Mm-hmm.
member of my family who I cherished, So how I do think we need to learn more about how to talk about grief and openly and process grief.
Mm-hmm. And grief is so individual. And
Mhm.
so it's individual because the connection you have with whatever you've lost is
Mhm.
individual.
Right.
So to judge someone else for grieving something that you cannot understand, you can never understand,
Mm-mm.
is really hurtful. And
Mhm.
it gets people then clamming up.
Right.
They don't want to talk about it. Then now they're going into themselves, and they're not getting the support that they need. And I think that's what's caused a lot of the problems in society, is that we aren't able to express the emotions that are coming up, because people are, saying, well, you need to get on with it. You need to,
Mhm.
you've had your time, kind of thing. It's time to, and then we suppress that.
Right.
And then there's all kinds of repercussions that come from that.
Sure, we suppress it to make other people comfortable, right? Instead of
Yeah,
what is
exactly.
is good for
Yeah.
us. And isn't it true that it's something that you like when you lose somebody that you love to death, it's not something that you get over. It's just something you learn to live with. That's what I believe personally. Like, I don't think you ever get over it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, your person is always gone.
Right.
So
Right.
um, there's always that. But I caution people on saying that you learn to live with it, because it almost has
Mm-hmm.
a connotation like you're just going to be living with this sadness for the
I
rest of your
see.
life, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
get used to it, right?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think, you can misinterpret that,
Okay. Yeah.
because I know it, right? I misinterpreted it because that was the message that I got from people was,
Mm-hmm.
well, I still miss my husband 21 years later. I'm still in grief. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I, I couldn't accept that. I
Right.
did not want to live for 20 years in misery because I felt
Right.
devastated. And
Mm-hmm.
if I thought, if I'm going to feel like this for the rest of my life, I just don't want to live. I
Mm-hmm.
don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand
So
that.
it's like kind of um, letting people know that that initial grief and that depression and that, the dark night of the soul that comes with that loss isn't something that needs to be there forever. That punch in the gut
Right.
feeling doesn't need to cloud over all of your joy and all of your happiness for the rest of your life. There is a way to break free of that. Um, and it takes time, and it takes everyone a little bit different time, and everybody has their own unique journey, as you were talking about in the bio. It's just really
Mm-hmm.
about feeling into what you need and what you want, and then getting the support to get there. That's the whole key.
Yeah. So how did you start that process? So you lose your husband, like you said, you're devastated and feeling like you didn't even want to be here yourself. Like, what was the catalyst that made you say, you know what, I need to do something about this?
Yeah, well, I mean, at first I just went through all the motions of life, and I think that's what
Mm,
everybody else does. You
sure.
just try to get up, have a shower, and you eat something, and you hope that this pain is going to lessen up. And then after a couple of months, when I realized that that wasn't happening, like
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't hold on to this any longer, um, I started searching. I started searching
Mm-hmm.
the internet
Sure.
for someone who would give me some hope that this was going to get better. And it was through that process that I found a fellow by the name of Sean Doyle, who lost
Mm-hmm.
his wife suddenly. And he wrote this book called The Sun Still Rises. But I had found his article, and it gave so much hope to me. It was about how he was able to be okay through the loss, that he was able to build a new life, like a life number two. And there was something
Mm-hmm.
about that that just um, inspired me, because it was like, this is a different message. This is not the same
Mm-hmm.
message.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so then you start looking for more like that, right? And so I found a quote on Facebook from a lady by the name of Julie Clough. And it
Mm-hmm.
said, people will tell you that you grieve for a lifetime. I choose otherwise. I choose the path from hurt to hope to healing every day.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that quote, I just knew that I needed to work with her. She is a grief coach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I signed up for a session. She did a free session with me to just kind of get to know and see if we were a fit. And I remember being terrified
Mm-hmm.
about doing that. Terrified, because you'd have to talk about it.
Right.
And I was thinking, I don't want to cry in front of this lady. It was just
Sure.
so, but that first session, I just knew that this was going to make a difference for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what really started to turn things around, along with the energy healing that I was doing at the same time.
Yeah. No, that's great. No, that's good because I noticed what happens, and it happens a lot with my mom, and it's happened to other people I know who have lost people. Is that you almost, and it may not even be conscious, like if you find yourself laughing, right, or you
Mm-hmm.
have a moment of joy, then you feel
Yes.
guilty.
Yes.
because like how
Hmm.
dare I feel any happiness? The person I love
Yeah.
died, like so I
Yeah.
imagine that you were probably figuring that out too, right?
Oh, absolutely. And every time there was supposed to be a joyous occasion like Christmas, I mean, we used to
Right.
love Christmas.
Right.
Um, that was no longer happy
Mm,
like it was. It was
yeah.
so hard. And you just think, well, how can Christmas ever be good again? That
Yeah.
that's I can't imagine it ever being okay again. So that's when you get into this place where you think, well, why bother? I mean, life is never going to get better, right? So
Right.
it's tough. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is tough. And I don't know if you did this, but I've knows some a lot of people. You remember the very last moment of the person's life and you go over that and
Yes,
over that, whatever that looked like in your situation. Like
yes,
if it was they died in front of you or, at the hospital or whatever, instead of looking at your whole experience with the person, right? You're focusing on those last moments and it's like a replay in your head. Did that happen to you?
yeah, because it's traumatic,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
so your mind keeps going back and trying to figure it out. It's just, and what I found really helped me through that was something called EFT tapping.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm familiar with
and
the
it,
EFT, and I've had other
yeah,
people who do that kind of work on my show before. Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
yeah,
Okay.
and that along with something called soul weaving process that is done
Mm,
by a lady by the name of Mary Seiss.
mm-hmm.
So she would tap. She does the tapping, but she also does this process of where she takes you back to that place, and she helps you kind of put your arm around
Mm,
yourself and to like comfort you in that space and give you what you needed in that space. It's just a beautiful process. And I was lucky enough to get to do that with her. It made a huge difference for me.
yeah. Yeah, I imagine that it would, because it also helps release the tapping also helps release the trapped emotions in our body, because we trapped emotions in
Hmm.
our body, of course, and science is catching up where we're actually starting to be able to see how they correlate, right? A trauma, it stays
It,
in our body. It's amazing.
yeah,
And is that part of your intuitive healing that you do, that kind of work?
yeah. So I've always kind of had a real interest in energy healing. My son was
Mm-hmm.
sick when he was a baby, and we took him to an energy healer, and she was able to heal him. And ever since then, I've just had this fascination, and I worked with his healer.
Mm-hmm.
She showed me a few things, and I read a few books, and I'd practice with family and friends. But when Blaine got sick, I got a lot more serious about it because I really wanted to be able to help him and
Mm-hmm.
me uh,
Mm-hmm.
through what we were going through. And so I started taking a lot of classes. So I was trained in like the Wonder Method, in Reiki, in Theta healing, in
Mm-hmm.
I've been taking, Touch for Health, cranial sacral therapy, just whatever I can get my
Whatever
hands
you
on,
can get your hands on. Yeah. What is I've heard of all of those, but the wonder method. What's the wonder method?
Yeah, it's something that hasn't been well known, but it's a program that was created by Alan Harriet,
Mm-hmm.
and he teaches the Wonder Method, and it's surprisingly simple to do. It takes practice, but basically what it is it's like um, that feeling of wonder. He teaches you how to come up with that feeling of wonder and
Mm-hmm.
breathing through it. And it creates a space of expansiveness, really. And it helps you shift emotions. And, we kind of keep ourselves in a box, we kind of hold ourselves in a place of comfort. And this sort of
Mm-hmm.
helps us to expand and relax. And so I took 2 levels of his course and really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it. He is able to feel into you and be able to see how you are working with the energy. And so it's very great to have that feedback as you're working. I found that to be really helpful. Really helpful.
Yeah, I've heard of all the others. That's a new one. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that one before. That sounds very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about, because about your awakening through grief, and I think that's really interesting because I don't think a lot of people would think of grief in those terms, right? Or looking at grief as a pathway to a transformation. I mean, obviously, we know that, when you have a devastating loss, it's going to transform you, right? But we just everybody assumes that, okay, everything kind of goes downhill from there. It's like, that doesn't mean that there's going to be no getting on the other side of it and having the healing and maybe being able to have, like that one person you were saying had a second life, right? Like you can have a second life after a devastating grief. And I imagine some people's experiences with loss are much more traumatic than others. Somebody who lost their grandparents who were 90 of old age is going to be very different than somebody who lost their teenager to drunk driving or something, so it's grief is grief though. But I want to talk about that, but I just looked at the time and we're at the halfway mark. So let's take our break now and then you can answer some of those questions for me. All right, guys, stay tuned and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Everyone has a story. I have a story. You have a story. We all have a story. As I see it, you have 3 choices. Allow your story to define you, use it to excuse you, or utilize it as a method to empower you. It's your life. You have the power. You choose. Rewrite your story on finduniquelyyou.com.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
Hi, I'm Melissa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, Creating the Life You Crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on Om Times Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, Creating the Life You Crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. If you're just joining me, I have Angela Clement on, and she's a certified grief coach and an intuitive healer. And we were talking about ways of processing our grief, getting through it, healing, and transforming. So, Angela, you say something about your book is titled Awakening Through Grief, A Journey of Hope for Healing After Loss. So, what do you mean by awakening through grief?
Yeah, so as I went through this process of experiencing the emotions, it brings you to a place where you start to question who you are, where you came from, why are you even here on this planet?
Right.
And it takes you to that place of spirituality, whether that be to your religion or to, everybody has a wide variety of beliefs. And really what it did for me was it took me to a place where I started to really search for who I truly am and what is my purpose here on this earth. And grief does that to people. And after interviewing over 130 people now that have had all different kinds of grief experience, losing children, losing multiple people in many ways, to suicide, to homicide, to all kinds of things that you couldn't even imagine. All of those people that I interviewed have somehow transformed their lives through that pain, and they have created beautiful spaces for others to heal and have found fulfillment and joy through what they're doing. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about going through this process of grief, through the healing process, and then coming out on the other side with more meaning and more purpose than maybe you even had before.
Yeah, I imagine anybody listening who's in the depths of it right now are probably saying, how am I going to get myself out of this, right? And also, grief doesn't just apply to losing somebody through death. A grief could be a divorce. A grief could be, many things. Having to leave your home for whatever reason, a job you love, falling out with friends or family, So there's different ways of grieving. People just always assume it's just a loss, right, through death, but some of your clients are dealing with maybe grief from a divorce and not necessarily through a death, right?
Yeah, and I think, grief happens to us right away. When we come out of that womb and we end up in this place where we're cold and there's the grief for the loss of that space, and lots of people talk about that being where grief really starts. And the whole process, I believe, was given to us as a healing tool. So it's something that we tend to talk, about as sadness, but it's much more than that. It's a process that we go through, a natural process that can help us get to the other side if we don't resist it. That's the key, is not to resist that process.
Not to resist it. So how can you have something that you call hope, heart opening to purpose and expansion. So what would you say would be something that we should be thinking about or doing to be able to get to that point of having our hearts open, and expand after grief?
Yeah, so that was one of the first things that I learned about our energy is when we have a traumatic experience, our heart closes in.
Yeah.
And energetically, we just cower because we can't handle the pain. And
Right.
it's okay. It's okay. That is a mechanism to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, we have to start to kind of unhinge all of the locks that have come down and just open up to the feelings that are going to arise, the
Mm-hmm.
sadness, the anger, the jealousy. And we don't have to do this all at once.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, gentle. And this is where I find energy healing really helps to release
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that energy that we've kind of locked up. And as we kind of unfold it and allow it to come through us, that's how we heal. So that's that whole opening. And once we can allow those emotions to come through, we start to see that there is a purpose to life, that there is a way we can expand again, and we can find new meaning. And but it's not, I'm not saying that this is easy. It's not like,
Right.
oh, good,
Yeah.
I'm pushing, I'm on it. I'm going to get, it's a process. And for everybody, it takes either more or less time. It's just, and there's no judgment in that. It's uniquely designed just for us. And so we have to, that's the frustrating part, I guess, is that
Yeah.
we have to get into and just know that our process is our process, and nobody can tell us how long,
Right.
what we do necessarily, but I can make all kinds of suggestions, advice
Mm-hmm.
that people can take and use. If it feels good, if it resonates with you, then grab it and use it. It's much better than not having anything to go with.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, that's so true. And I imagine that one of the hardest parts of grief is, and a lot of people think that that means that the relationship is over, right? Because they're
Right.
gone, right? So they're not here, but that's not true. Just because they're not here in physical form doesn't mean that the relationship is done and it's gone. So I know you talk about maintaining a relationship with loved ones who have passed on. So what would you tell us how we could do that?
Yeah, so often it starts out as, just wanting to connect with
Mm-hmm.
that person, realizing that maybe there is a possibility that I could, and then just taking that step in that direction. And it seems like, maybe at first, if you don't believe in this sort of thing, you might feel like you're going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I used to talk to Blaine all the time. I would
Yeah.
at first stand and just talk to his picture on the mantle on the fireplace, and I would just tell him about the day I was having and how awful it was to be here without him, and I had to
Yeah.
go and do this today without you. And but I was building that relationship with him. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's a natural way to start. And then I would start
Mm-hmm.
to find little synchronicities.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was like the mourning doves that would sing outside whenever I was
Mm.
writing a blog post. It seemed like at very strategic times I would notice this bird.
Right.
And so people, get feathers, or they have dimes, or,
Yeah.
there's all
Yeah.
kinds of these things. You start to pay attention to that, and you start to realize that maybe there is more to it than you thought. And that starts to open up the door to more and more.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and it's like that energetic connection. You start to feel it. You start to know that they really are there, that they are supporting you, that they just want you to be happy. And then often, people will get comfort from also going to a medium. And
Right.
that's not for
Mm-hmm.
everyone, but lots of
Yeah.
people do get a lot of comfort and hope of that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, believe me, I know. We've gone to many.
Yeah.
For my sister. Oh yeah, my mom, my other sister and I. Well, my other sister and I have always loved and gone to psychics and done that stuff. But my mom, I think, since she lost her daughter, has opened herself up to it, and that we've had some amazing
Mm-hmm.
experiences. But yeah, it's interesting because my sister, her name is Tony. I see her every morning because I do a meditation and I do a visualization. And when I go to my special little magical forest, she's there. So I see her every day. So it has
Yeah.
really, really helped me because I'm a visual person. I'm a visual artist. I'm visual anyway. It's easy for me to
Mm.
visualize. And I've created this place in my mind's eye, and I really feel connected. And I see her, and she's there, and I feel her. You know, I can feel it. So I've gotten to that point, and it's been so amazing for my own healing, you know, in her not being here in physical form. And I, like I said, I feel her. I mean, I hold her hand every day and I can feel it. It's
Yeah.
really, really, really interesting. So I do feel like the relationship is still ongoing. And
Hmm.
I imagine that that's very comforting to your, what do you call them, your clients? I don't know. I never know what to call them.
Yeah.
Would they
Like,
be clients? Your people?
well, like it's like community, I guess, is what I've been
Yeah, your
calling it.
community. Yeah. Yeah, for your community that it's true because if you ask for a sign, every time I ask Tony for a sign, I get one. Every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
find that
And I know that,
his name was Blaine? Blaine?
yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, mine would come more sporadically. And sometimes I would think, well, if I ask for a sign and he doesn't give me one, I'm going to be disappointed. So I don't want to
Yeah.
do that. There
Right.
was, and I know there's people that have said, I've never gotten a sign, from my loved one. And,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that makes me so sad when I hear that. But
Mm.
I always tell people, be patient. It's not like,
Yeah.
never going to get there. It's not like that at all. Sometimes it takes longer, and sometimes we go about it in different ways. And so it's just being really patient with the process. And sometimes in those cases, I do recommend a medium. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really careful about, because I know that the medium has to resonate with you. They have
Yes.
to be evidential
Yeah.
mediums, and so that that for sure that is your loved one. And
Yeah.
then also it has to be someone that really you can connect with. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's
I
important.
agree. I agree. I agree. Yeah, anybody listening to us on this show are open to all that. That's my audience. So you can
Mm.
share anything here about that. That's my demographic, They go to mediums, psychics, tarot readers, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Um yeah, because like I said, we've had some definitely evidential mediums who have said things that they would never know about her. There's no
yeah,
way. There's just no way. It brings such a sense of comfort because you realize that, and I say this to my mom all the time, Mom, it's only temporary. You're going to be with her again. She's already with you, but you'll see her and feel her again. Like, it's
yeah,
just, she's just right over there. So
yeah.
it is a big process. And what do you think? What is your community telling you are some of the most challenging and difficult emotions that come up with the grieving process?
Well, guilt and shame are really big. They're really hard to deal with sometimes because we
Mm,
think that maybe we could have done something different, especially in the
yes.
suicide.
Yeah.
Or maybe if just there was a different chain of events. I mean, I even went through
Yeah.
this too. I was, as a healer, maybe I could have done something for him. Maybe I could have,
Right.
maybe if we wouldn't have done the chemotherapy, he would have lived. There's
Right.
all of these
Yeah.
things that go through your mind. And so letting go of that is really big. And also forgiveness, because sometimes we don't realize uh,
Mm,
what we hold.
yeah.
um, and if we've had things that we didn't get to say, or
Mm,
regrets about the way things happened, we can hold on to that too, and it can really stall our healing when we do that. So
mm,
those are big ones. Yeah.
yeah.
And anger too.
Yeah, that's what I was
because
just gonna ask you about the
yeah,
anger. Like, did you get
yeah,
like you get mad like that they left you? You get mad at
yes,
them, like, how dare you
yeah,
leave me? You
yeah,
know?
yeah. Oh, yeah. And for the longest time, I mean, anger is one of the things that everybody talked about going through, and I wasn't getting angry, and I was like, well, I'm not angry,
Yeah.
there was this, there was this avoidance, right, to
Right.
allow that to come up. And the approach I ended up taking was, if I was to be angry, what would I be angry about?
Mm.
And once I allowed myself to make a list of those things, it all
Yeah.
started to come, right? Because it was like almost like I wouldn't open that door. I wouldn't allow myself to feel that, because we're told we shouldn't be angry. It's not
Of
right.
course. Of course. And then you feel
And so,
guilty and ashamed for
yeah,
being angry at the loved one who passed away.
exactly.
So it's like a cycle, of what we do to ourselves.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's so
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, that
Hmm.
I noticed in doing the forgiveness. Like I had to do that with my sister because I was like, really? You left and with mom and dad still alive? Like, what,
Yeah.
and all the, because she had challenges and all the challenges you had. Like, so I had to forgive myself for getting mad at her for
Hmm.
leaving us, and
Yeah.
forgive her because her journey is her journey. And it was very cathartic when I finally did do that, when I released that.
Hmm.
It is very healing. So somebody who's listening to us right now, they're in the midst of the deepest part of their grief. What is something you can offer them, some words or some comfort that you can offer for them just to help them get through a day? Because I'm sure it's just 1 minute, 1 hour, one day at a time in the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And, you know, uh, when you're going through that really hard, dark night of the soul, and you're
Mm-hmm.
questioning everything about yourself and your life, um, just know that that really is the space of where things could be turning around. So don't give up at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just to know that sometimes we have to get to those deep, dark depths before we can start crawling out. It's almost like, when you jump in the water and you're going down and down and down,
Mm-hmm.
and there's force, right? But then at some point, you get to that place where you can start swimming your way back up to the surface. And so I tell people, it doesn't have to be like this forever. It can turn around, but not to suffer in silence, and to think that if you just wait, time will heal, because
Mm-hmm.
it's so much more. Well, it's so difficult, and it's so
Yeah.
much easier if you have someone to support you. And so look for that support. Find someone that can help you through this, and don't do it alone. Just don't.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I imagine now with the internet, there's so many online communities and grief groups that you can join, right? You don't even have
Hmm.
to go in person anymore. I mean, you
No,
could if it's available to you if you want to, but I'm saying online, you could do it from the comfort of your home, or just listening to other
absolutely.
people's stories sometimes is very helpful, realizing that
Yeah.
you're not the only one in the world going through grief. Was there anything that you did physically that you noticed helped you, like walking in
Oh,
nature or reading a book or, something that just gave you
mhm.
moments of relief?
Yeah. Well, definitely walking in nature is huge. Just uh, writing was huge for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Okay.
Getting my ideas down on paper where I could see them and look at them from a more objective place instead of all muddled in my
Yeah.
head. And also, there is the daily energy routine that Donna Eden teaches. You can
Mm-hmm.
YouTube it, and there's something about that routine that helps you release energy in a really, really easy, practical way. And I use that a lot.
Yeah, I'm not
to
familiar
help me.
with her work, so I'll look it up. What's her name again?
Her name is
Dawn,
Donna Eden. It's
Donna
Eden
Eden.
Energy. Yeah.
Eden Energy. Okay, I'll look. Yeah, I'm curious because I'm not familiar with that, her name. So, okay. So
Hmm.
there some form of releasing the bottled up energy that was stuck you needed to do.
Absolutely. And it's such a simple thing that you can do in like 5 minutes. You can do it in the morning or before you go to bed or during the day if you're having a rough time. I found it really helpful. So something I can
Okay.
offer.
Yeah,
And
well, I
also,
mean, and people, do you work with people one-on-one? How do you
yeah,
work with your
so
community?
I do. So I have a support group that meets every
Okay.
10 days and we meet on
Oh,
Zoom. And
okay.
it's an excellent group because a lot of the people that have been there with me, the last year and a half. I guess it's just about 2 years now. And so they've got a lot of wisdom and experience. And so there's this great core group of people in there. And then now we've, got the new ones that are coming in. And so it's just a really nice place where we just share what we're learning. We share what resources we have been, the books we've been reading or the things that have been helping us. It's not a space where we necessarily, sing our woes for the entire time. It's
Right.
more about, what's helping us get through our grief and how can we listen to each other, acknowledge each other in the space we're in, and then help each other move through the grieving process. And some of these people are just doing amazing things. So I just love that. I love that
This is
opportunity.
your Awaken Your Soul's Journey group. Is that what it's called? Is
Yeah,
it,
I call
yeah.
it a group get together. And if you go on my website, you can sign up for it. And it's for anybody and it's free. It's just something that I do.
And your website,
Hmm.
again, let people know your website.
Yeah, it's healingenergy.world.
Okay, healingenergy.world. Okay. Yeah, so anybody who's listening who is struggling with grief and looking for some healing, modalities, because I'm sure you guys share a lot of healing modalities that are working for people, right? In the
For
group,
sure. Yeah.
and it's private, and all that good stuff,
Yeah.
because people, it's good, it's great that you've created that because a lot of people get so lost and don't know where to go and don't know what to
Mhm.
do and just want to bury their head, stay in bed and stay under the covers and not come out
Yeah.
from the world. Yeah, so I'm thrilled that you have that, and the fact that it's free is even better for people. So now share a little bit. We only have a few minutes about your book that's coming
Mhm.
out in October. Tell us about your book.
Yeah. So my book is really about my journey through my grief. And
Mm-hmm.
it's basically through story and examples. I share how I was able to move through my grief. I share exercises, journal prompts, different things. Because I was an educator, of course, it seemed
Yeah.
natural to put some of that
Right.
stuff in there. And it was a very spiritual journey. And so the book is about how I moved through that experience and how I came to live a life now that I really love and I really enjoy. So hopefully it'll help a lot of people through their grieving process. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting it out there.
Yeah, so it's coming out October. Does it have do you have a day in
I haven't
October?
got it yet, but if people go to my website and they go under the tab that's books,
Okay.
they can sign up there, and I am doing a draw, so they can sign up to get notified when the book is going to be launched.
Okay.
And I am doing a draw for signed copies for anybody who signs up there. So, yeah.
Oh, that's really wonderful. So I imagine you'll be able to get it on Amazon and all the
Yes.
places that people like to get their books. Okay. Will it be at
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble too? And there
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Oh, that's
wonderful. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the great thing about books. There's always a book out there that will resonate with somebody, right? I'm such a reader. I'm such a reader. So it's like whatever I'm looking for, I get so excited that somebody wrote it, right? For me.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Oh my God. Well, is there anything you want to leave us with? Because we're almost out of time before we wrap up. Any words of
Well, I
wisdom?
just people, don't give up. There's hope. You can move through this. I've got you. And if people are interested in checking out my website, I do angel readings. There's meditations on there. There's all kinds of things that they can use to help them through their process. So,
Well, thank you so much, Angela. It was such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. It's a really important subject. All right, everybody, check her out, reach out to her, especially if you're going through grieving right now and you need support. Thanks, everyone, for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. And I'm wishing everyone a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Peace.